everybody, it's Renee from Weekly Watercolor Challenges, and today we're going to be talking about glazing. If you're new to watercolor, you might not be very familiar with this technique, or if you've been painting with watercolor for a while, you might be even using this technique without even realizing that that's what you're doing. So glazing is when you take a thin wash of color and you let it dry, and then you put another thin wash of a color over top of it, and again and again. Important to let it dry each time between each layer so that you can build up that depth as opposed to blending the colors while they're wet. So I'm going to show you how to make a glazing chart using your own colors, so you always know how those colors are going to overlap and what they're going to look like. And that way there's no guessing and no accidental muddy surprises that you might be really upset about in your nice paintings. So let's get to it. A glazing chart is essentially a chart where you're going to make one line of each color that you have, and then you're going to let it dry, and then you're going to go across the other direction and use those same colors and make another line individually of each color that you have, so that you can see how your colors interact with each other when they're layered. So if you've never done that before, it's a really, really nice way to make a nice little chart that you can keep in your workstation to just have it handy as reference, so you don't get surprised by any of your colors on a painting that you really care about. So to get started, I'm going to show you my color mixes. So I've put a teeny tiny drop of pigment in each of my trays, one for each color that I've got. Only got 10. So I just, a tiny little drop of paint and then a little bit of water. I end up using, I've got one of these little syringes you can buy from the pharmacy, and I just dropped in for these probably about 2 milliliters of water for each itty bitty dot of paint that I have. So you don't need very much. The important thing here is that you don't have your colors too vibrant, or it's going to be really hard to get that nice glazing effect. You really want the transparencies to work together with this. So that means leave your gouache at home. You don't want to be using opaque colors, because if you layer opaque colors over top of a transparent color, it's just going to blot out whatever is underneath it. And then, because there are so many different characteristics with watercolor paints, such as granulation, staining versus non-staining pigments, you really want to take a look at what pigments you have so that you can see how they all interact together. And an important note with this is you want to work from light to dark. If you put a dark color down first, you're not going to be letting that white of the paper shine back through very easily, so it's not going to let those other colors really speak and play with what you're trying to accomplish. The more layers of paint you have, the more intense hues and values you'll end up with. And then with this, it's really, really important to use a light touch. You don't want to repeatedly brush the previous layers, because if you do, you can end up disturbing those layers and accidentally blending your colors, or just, muddying it up. If you have a staining pigment, I've read that you want to use your staining pigment first, whereas your non-staining pigments, those lift out more easily. So what you want to do is just be really, really careful if you're using non-staining pigments that you don't be too rough with it. You just want a single layer of each color for this method. Now that we've talked about color and our pigment to water ratio, let's get started making this chart. So I'm going to work light to dark because, that's the advice I just gave you, but also my brain really likes that. So I'm just going to do one strip of each color, one single nice stroke all the way down. Well, it looks like I could actually have used more pigment, so I'm going to break my own rule and drop more pigment into this so it's consistent all the way. So it's all that nice yellow. And then I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to do it with every other color that I have, making sure not to overlap them because I don't want them to bleed together. So leave a little space between them when you do this. Just a nice line. Now I actually probably have too much water in this. So I'm breaking all my rules I just told you, but we'll go for it anyway and see what happens. Get a little brown. Try to do a nice even line. All right, so this isn't going to be the best glazing chart, but it'll definitely show you the process, and I'm sure you can do a better job if you learn from my mistakes. The nice part is, with the wash being really light, it really allows you to tweak it and customize what you're doing, so you've got lots of room to play. If I had gone in too dark with these, it would be much harder to glaze with, and I probably wouldn't be very happy with the results. All right, let's see, cerulean blue. Ooh, boy, that one's light. All right, we need more blue. I'm gonna get some ultramarine on my brush. Just gonna pull up from the bottom again, try to even it out. Going for my dioxazine purple for this next. And lastly, I have black. That should be interesting. I'm gonna pick this up and let those loose colors run, so it'll at least be a little more consistent all the way down. Back the other way. And then we're gonna let that dry and we'll come back and do the opposite side. Okay, so now that my colors are dry, I'm gonna start doing the vertical lines. I'm gonna use the same colors in the same order and just layer them across. And obviously, you know, you'll notice I've got this mistake here because I had too much pigment in this. I didn't let it run properly, but everything else looks okay. So I'm gonna start in with my yellow and go right across the top. This is not working out very well. I'm gonna just try to be really gentle and light since my pigments are such a light color. So we got our yellow in. Let's see about black. I mean, not black. This is orange. What the heck? Okay. Just one little stroke the other way. That looks cool. Let's do this burnt sienna. Get another little layer going the opposite direction. And I'm really being light with these because I don't want to accidentally pick up any of the colors that's underneath it. All right, next we have permanent rose. I need more color. See, that's half the fun though. Doing it wrong, being silly, just playing around. And I'm sure glad that I did this on this chart instead of, you know, a nice painting that I had already drawn out that I was really looking forward to. At least this way I'll have better ideas how to do this in the future. Uh-oh, I overlapped my pink a little bit. Oops. Well, it looks cute. The colors are nice at least. All right, that was red. Let's go for some green. In we go. Back across the other way just to keep it consistent with what I've already been doing. And obviously, if I'm sure you've noticed, I'm doing a terrible job with these straight lines. It's because I'm reaching over top of my iPad while it records. So it's very awkward. I promise, I can normally paint straight lines. All right, need some more blue to pull through this way. Just nice and gentle. Before those get too dry, I'm gonna see about letting them run side to side a little. See that paint traveling down. Try to avoid having a hard line like I did with the red. All right, let's hit that ultramarine now. All right, dioxazine purple, in we go. Pull across the other way. And last but not least, black. Just a little bit more here. Oops, too much. All right, well, that's okay. So at least we've got these cool overlaps. I learned I can do better next time. I think next time I would use less water, but I am really liking these vibrant colors. So we'll let it dry and pop back in and see how it looks. All right, there you have it. Not very great glazing chart, but it still shows the general process, and hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and do a better job on yours. I'll probably redo this, but it was still a fun exercise. I enjoyed pulling on my paints and jumping in, so hopefully you have fun with it. Hopefully yours turns out to be more useful than mine does, but yeah, just jump in, have fun, happy painting, and see you in the next one.